Plug Power is definitely a company that you want to cheer for. And that's because their mission is to save the planet. I mean, who wouldn't want a company that produces clean energy? But Plug Power keeps disappointing investors for years. They keep promising growth, profitability, and they can't even make money on a gross profit basis. I'm not talking about net income. I'm talking about a gross profit basis. So if you make video cameras, right, and it costs you $1,000 to make one, they literally sell them for $500. That's just complete insanity. Then after losing money on a gross profit basis, they still have to pay for research and development, marketing, general and administrative expenses. Plug Power went public in 1999 at a price of $150 per share. If you invested $10,000 at IPO, today, because the stock price is about $2.60, you would have about $173. And if you compare this to investing $10,000 into Amazon IPO, today you would have about $33 million. So investing in Plug Powered IPO, today you would able to afford one night at a hotel. And if you did the same with Amazon stock, you would be able to buy a portfolio of hotels. In this video, I want to talk about the bull case and the bear case for Plug Power. But let's first talk about what the company does. Plug Power is the champion of green hydrogen. It sells equipment that produce green hydrogen, and it also sells equipment that stores and transports green hydrogen. The company also wants to get into the green hydrogen production and wants to become one of the largest green hydrogen producers in the United States. Now, probably it'd be useful to talk about what hydrogen does, right? And hydrogen is used for power generation. It can be used to power heavy intensive industries like steel or chemicals. It can also be used to power trucks, to power cars, or heat our homes. Now, there is two main hydrogens. There is a gray hydrogen and there is a green hydrogen. And most of the hydrogen that's produced is gray hydrogen. Gray hydrogen is also known as dirty hydrogen. And it's because it's made from fossil fuels. And so the reason why there is a movement towards green hydrogen is because green hydrogen is clean hydrogen. It produces zero greenhouse gas emissions. And that's a big deal for, saving the planet. And so green hydrogen is produced from water. As you know, water has a chemical equation H2O. H stands for hydrogen and O stands for oxygen. And the way green hydrogen is produced is by sending electricity through water and splitting hydrogen and oxygen. But the key to this is that this electricity has to come from renewable sources, such as solar or hydro. Electricity cannot come from fossil fuels, okay? If the electricity doesn't come from clean and renewable resources, the resulting hydrogen is no longer called green hydrogen. It's gray hydrogen, dirty hydrogen. So again, the key is the electricity splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, but that electricity has to come from renewable sources. And also the equipment that is used to split hydrogen, oxygen is called an electrolyzer. And electrolyzers is an equipment that Plug Power actually makes and sells. Now that you know what Plug Power does, what is the bull case scenario for the stock? Well, today's revenues are less than $1 billion. And actually in 2024, revenues are going to be lower than 2023 revenues. However, what the company is saying is that in 2027, revenues will increase to $6 billion and gross margins will be around 30%. Now remember, today, gross margins are negative. Also, the company is saying that by 2030, revenues will be $20 billion and gross margins will be 35%. Now, that's a huge jump from today's revenues, more than 20 times. That's what they're saying. Now, if they achieve this, then current investors are going to make money because today the market cap is about $2 billion. And if Plug Power can achieve $20 billion of revenues and 35% gross margins, this will most likely flow into the bottom line and net income will probably be positive. And the stock would then be cheap at today's levels. But this, of course, is a big if, because over the last 20 years, all the company has done is promised and never really delivered. Now, that's just on the fundamental basis. And just because fundamentals might not work out positively does not mean that you can't make money on the stock. You can trade it. And when the company went public in 1999, right after going public, the stock was at 10x. It was at 10x, and fundamentally, the company didn't deliver any profits, right? And over the next 20 years, it didn't deliver fundamentally. But yet, during this period of time, the stock was still 10x. Also, in 2020, it reached a low of $3, and then it went up to over 60. So it had a return for the traders of almost 1,700%. It was a darling. It didn't deliver on profitability, and yet some people made money, right? So this stock is susceptible to this, changes of moods. And also, when you have a stock that everybody knows that it has lost money over the last 20 years, everybody knows that it tends to disappoint investors, everybody tends to be on one side, and shorts tend to pile up. The short interest on Plug Power's float is about 25, 27%. That's a lot of float being short. So any sort of hope, any sort of more attention, any sort of positive surprise can really squeeze them, and absolutely it can become a darling again, and it can go 5x, 10x without fundamentally delivering. So we have to keep that in mind. And also, when I talked about Plug Power's wanting to get into green hydrogen production, they received a proposal from the US Department of Energy for a loan for $1.6 billion. Now, they didn't get this money yet, but if they were to get it tomorrow, guess what? Guess what's going to happen to the stock price? You guessed it right. They're going to squeeze the shorts. The thing is going to go. So we have to keep this in mind. Now, moving on to the bear case. I mean, that one is pretty simple. Over the last 20 years, all you did was promise, and you didn't deliver anything. You have revenues, but what good are revenues if you can't even produce a profit on a gross margin basis? So the company is burning through cash. Whatever products they're selling, they can't even sell them on a gross profit basis. Then you have research and development, marketing, and general and administrative. The market just doesn't believe that they're going to be able to do it. And even if Plug Power gets the $1.6 billion loan from the Department of Energy, well, considering how much the company is burning, this money is just going to last for a few quarters or a year or so, right? So that's really it. And if they cannot turn around the ship, eventually the financing options are going to dry up and the company is just going to go out of business, right? Because if any company that doesn't produce, fundamental performance, at some point, the financiers are going to say, you know what? We're not writing the check anymore. So that's the bear case. But also, I have a personal experience with green hydrogen production, and it appears to me that what Plug Power wants to do is build, well, they're already building one, but get into green hydrogen production by building big facilities, okay? And when you build big facilities, you have to feed them, remember, with renewable electricity, right? Do you have enough renewable electricity in that location to feed that monster? You might have to pay a lot more for the electricity, which is your cost of goods sold on the green hydrogen that you're going to sell, right? So that's problematic. Also, for the customers, if you build a big facility, do you have enough customers in the vicinity to sell green hydrogen? Because if you have to transport that hydrogen far away, it's almost impossible to make money because the transportation of hydrogen is so expensive that it's almost impossible to be competitive with gray hydrogen if you go far away. So that's kind of the problem that I see. And you see, I am involved in another green hydrogen company called CHARBONE Hydrogen Corporation, and they kind of have a completely different model. First of all, they're very cheap. They're not in the billions. Their market cap is only 10 million, but their idea is to have many local green hydrogen production facilities that are located close to the industrial customers, and they are also located in an area where renewable energy, renewable electricity is available at the right price. So the input cost is enough of it, and it's cheap enough to be able to sell the green hydrogen to local industrial users and make a profit. And because their production is local and it doesn't have to travel far, they can be competitive with gray hydrogen. So that's my play for green hydrogen. If you're interested actually in learning about CHARBONE Hydrogen Corporation, in the description, I will leave you a link to the video. But for now, I just wanted to present you with Plug Power bull and bear case. It's definitely a company that I am cheering for. I want them to succeed because I want them to help us save the planet. Will they be able to succeed it? Well, only time will tell. But what we do know for now is that in the past, they just made a bunch of promises that they haven't delivered. So the market is skeptical. Skeptical to a point that there's a lot of short interest on the stock. So even if fundamentally they don't deliver, the stock might still go up. if they have any sort of positive news on the loan from the Department of Energy or any sort of hype around green hydrogen, the stock can definitely squeeze and go up. But for me, that's not a buy for me. But if it is for you, of course, you let me know in the comments below. For me, I'm going with CHARBONE Hydrogen Corporation. Thanks for watching.